Part 21. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 201. The prince was really mad. He had never been so aggrieved before. Moreover, it was after he became a saint body. He gritted his teeth and his eyes were bloodshot. You two are looking for death, so it's not my fault. He really wanted to kill. Moon-level battle tactics, 9 flame dragon soul-splitting claws. This is the top battle tactics of the royal family. There are 9 moves in total. The power of each move has a terrifying effect. It can be said that it is a perfect match with his 9 heavens flame dragon saint body. On his body, the true energy condensed 9 fire dragon shadows, entwining his body. At this moment, his eyes were covered with golden light, and the claws of his hands were like dragon claws. Die! The dragon claws moved, and the fire dragon rolled. At this moment, he was murderous. In his eyes, the 2 people who were rebellious were already dead. He was forced into such an angry state. Zhang Zizai was just in the mood to fight. He saw Ling Xian had gone around, so he went straight to the front. Dragon robbery sword technique. This was the first time he combined 3 swords with completely different attributes to explode. Fire Dragon Prison. The Dragon Ghost Sword, in its heavy sword form, pierced directly. A violent fire dragon sword, was within the attack range of the opponent's 9 flame dragon soul claw. Xiang Liashu was killed by Zhang Zizai in this move. At this moment, the dragon ghost sword shrank instantly. Ice Dragon Stab. The Xianbing Tianlong's true energy surged out, and the blade was transformed into a black ice dragon. Zhang Zizai stabbed out 18 swords in an instant, and the black ice spikes instantly pierced into the fire dragon prison. The black ice and fire combined at this moment. Thunder Dragon Annihilation. The last sword, with thunder and lightning, cooperated with Zhang Zizai's lightning storm. The black lightning surged and swept away, colliding with the fire dragon prison and the ice dragon stab. 3 disasters broke out. The terrifying power made Zhang Zizai confront the prince's 9 flame dragon soul claw head-on. The prince never expected that his bottom-of-the-box battle tactics did not defeat Zhang Zizai head-on. Moreover, the power of the 3 tribulations exploded, entangled him in it, and the violent black lightning even paralyzed his whole body, and there was also the freezing of ice and the burning of flames, and the penetrating effect of Lanja sword chi. Before he hurt Zhang Zizai, the 9-layer shield of the 9 heavens flame dragon holy body was almost broken by Zhang Zizai. How can he be so strong? The prince was shocked. He was now a little afraid of these teenagers who were 4 or 5 years younger than him, one more perverted than the other. When he was surprised at Zhang Zizai's strength, he forgot Princess Ling Xian. The murderous monster instantly appeared behind him. At the moment when his holy body shield was broken, the dragon tail that had grown here directly hit the back of his head. Ah! The prince screamed, and the blood on the back of his head rolled, breaking a hole. The scene was extremely scary. He flew out with a pale face. At this time, the world was turned upside down, and he was unstable and the whole person was stunned. This time, he was already seriously injured. If he continued to fight with Zhang Zizai despite the injury, he might die of blood loss. Just kidding, Zhang Zizai certainly didn't want him to die. This punishment was enough. If he continued to fight, someone would die, which would be troublesome. Princess Ling Xian had hit him so hard that she should have calmed down temporarily. Zhang Zizai stopped immediately. However, the injured prince was extremely angry at this time. His face was pale and his eyes were bloodshot. He looked at the 2 men fiercely and said, "You dare to hurt me like this time, you are really dead." Zhang Zizai laughed dumbly and said, "Prince, don't joke. How can we 2 hurt you? No one will believe it if you tell others. The injury on your head may be caused by you accidentally hitting something. I am really trying to stop the fight." Zhang Zizai, the prince was so angry that he trembled all over, but his head was dizzy at this time, and he couldn't even stand steadily. He really didn't expect that his 9-layer shield of the 9 heavens flame dragon saint body would be broken. "And you, monster," he stared at Lingxian. He was about to speak, but he didn't expect that the monster in his eyes was still bursting with terrifying murderous aura, and it came towards him again. She didn't stop yet. "It's bad," Zhang Zizai was shocked, but he was too slow. He watched, in the eyes of the prince who couldn't believe it, Princess Lingxian appeared in front of the prince. Puff! Her claws went through the prince's chest. Hard, crushed. The prince's face was pale and trembling all over. Death was doomed. He was stunned. He twitched all over. Looking at the monster covered with blood-colored scales in front of him, he saw blood, cruelty, and hideousness. She had no reason at all at this time, and no emotion. She just wanted to kill him. I'm going to die," the prince had calculated everything, but he couldn't expect that he would die today in the hands of a fool who could be played with at will in his eyes. He struggled and tried to breathe. He wanted to tell himself that this was just a boring dream, but everything was so real. He couldn't hold on for more than 2 breaths. He had been looking at the devil-like existence in front of him miserably, and then he died completely. Zhang Zizai also stood there. He knew that something big had happened. He was stunned. Now that he saw that the prince had died, he wiped his eyes and told himself that this was not real. This was a person who would become the emperor in the future. Even Zhang Zizai didn't expect that he would die today, let alone himself. The man died, just like that. His story ended suddenly. This really shows that no matter how powerful a person is, no matter how promising his future is, if he commits evil, he will die in an instant. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. Zhang Zizai was still thinking about what the consequences would be if he became the emperor in the future, but he died tonight. The prince is not Xiang Liushu, and the turmoil of his death may be known to people in the next 500 years. From tonight, the entire Yanlong ruins is expected to explode. The key is that although Lingxian is the murderer, she cannot beat the prince without Zhang Zizai. In this way, although Zhang Zizai did not want to kill him, he is also an absolute accomplice. This crime is almost the same as that of Huang Tianguan. Murdering the current prince, the heir to the throne of the dynasty. This is a serious crime punishable by execution of the entire family. And it happened within the imperial city. When Zhang Zizai was shocked, he knew that if he didn't remedy the situation as soon as possible, he and Lingxian would be dead, and their relatives would be implicated. He saw that when the prince died completely, the monstrous evil spirit on her body finally began to dissipate. "You are such a headache," Zhang Zizai wanted to cry but had no tears. How could this little girl, who was usually soft, suddenly become a killing machine? He hurried up and put the bloody prince's body into the space jade pendant without saying a word. There were traces of fighting around, but it could still be covered up. He quickly cleared the bloodstains nearby and worked quickly to restore the battle scene. When he suddenly looked back, he saw that the dragon scales on her body had completely disappeared. She returned to her original appearance and her eyes were clear again, but she must have known what happened, so she looked at herself blankly at this time, and tears kept falling from her eyes. "You're going to kill me, and you still have the nerve to cry." Zhang Zizai really wanted to slap her in the face, and beat the prince, but she went straight up and crushed him to pieces. She probably wanted to eat the prince for dinner. Just as she finished speaking, she took 2 steps to him, suddenly hugged him, and cried in his arms. The sound was miserable enough, hurt, like a child. Zhang Zizai wanted to scold her again, but seeing her crying like this, her whole body was shaking, and her clothes were wet with tears in a while. "Okay, the person is dead, I don't blame you, don't cry, okay," he could only gently stroke her back, trying to calm her down, otherwise this was not a solution. I feel so bad, so bad. She choked, holding Zhang Zizai's waist with both hands. To be honest, any man would be heartbroken to hear that trembling voice. How could he know how painful she was at this moment without experiencing her life? Her voice was hoarse, every word she spoke was trembling, and every tear she shed was bitter. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 202. Be good, the prince has gone to hell. He can no longer bully you. If it's uncomfortable, then it's him who's uncomfortable. It's also uncomfortable for me. I've become an accomplice for no reason. Zhang Zizai wanted to cry but had no tears, so he pretended to compete and let the prince see how powerful he was, but in the end, this girl stabbed him to death. She was still crying, so hard that Zhang Zizai felt like he was being strangled by her. However, seeing her face full of tears, he really felt sorry for her. He felt that he was like a father at this time. Seeing his precious daughter struggling so much, he had no choice but to hold her and coax her. To calm her down. In the woods, Zhang Zizai persuaded her earnestly. She didn't know how many tears she shed, but she finally stopped. She looked down and saw that she was asleep, with snot bubbles still hanging on her nose. Although her face was a little fleshy, but it's really cute. It's hard to imagine how she could hide such a bloody devil in her bones. Such a girl should be like a fairy. Writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. He could fall asleep standing up, and Zhang Zizai was convinced. He picked her up by the waist. I really ate too much, much heavier than Shen Xiao, he muttered, carried her into Lingyanzai, put her on her pink bed, covered her with a quilt, and was about to go out to the yard to tidy up. Thoughts, before she could stand up, she suddenly held her hand. Daddy, don't leave Yanner. She didn't open her eyes, she just muttered, but her palms were very strong. If Zhang Zizai broke free, she would probably wake up. I didn't expect that I would become a father before I even got married. He also had a headache, so he could only sit on the edge of the bed and watch her struggle in her dream. This girl, she was really weird, but she was really fragile in her heart. Zhang Zizai couldn't leave, so he tore off a corner of her clothes and wiped the tears on her face. When she tried to free her hand, she exerted extra force, which made Zhang Zizai wonder if she was pretending to be asleep to seduce him. He checked and found that she was really asleep. Mom, the swing was broken by my sister. You must have said that Yanner doesn't cherish her own things. She muttered in her sleep, and tears came out of nowhere and wet the pillow. Is there a river hidden in this guy's eyes? Zhang Zizai muttered. It was late at night. He didn't go back to the temple tonight. If he went back tomorrow, he would definitely be beaten by the 9 Immortals. They had been dating for one night. If he told her that he had been his father for one night, would she believe it? The point is, these are all trivial matters. The important thing is that the prince is dead and his body is still in his own space, Jade Piri. There has been no movement until now. No one should know that something like this happened here. He was thinking to himself. I would guess that Xiang Liash's death was mainly because the prince knew about Li Rengxiang, and I didn't dispose of the body well. This time, the body must be disposed of, and the prince's whereabouts are probably not discovered by anyone. There has been no movement until now. It is possible that no one knows. But if he disappears, there will be news soon, and then we will be looking for him everywhere. I must burn the body clean. The most important thing is that it seems that this is the first time Lingxian has shown such a change. It is probably unknown to everyone. I am not the prince's opponent. Normally, they would not suspect me. These are his more idealistic speculations, but last time Xiang Liash's death, he also speculated that it would not affect him, and he was not identified as the murderer in the end. Therefore, no matter how thorough his imagination was, he knew that there were some changes, and it was him. Uncontrollable. However, this is all your own life. Next, it depends on your luck. In the middle of the night, Ling Xian finally let go, and Zhang Zizai returned to the woods again to tidy up the battle scene. He was very careful this time and restored it to almost its original state. There are no traces of blood left, and even the smell of blood has disappeared. No one came here at this time, so he felt relieved. The prince wanted to use Li Rengxiang to play with them. He must have done it alone. He probably didn't tell anyone else. In addition, Ling Yanzai is a small corner of the palace. It was extremely normal that no one came. The news of the battle at that time would not spread too far. After sorting out so much, I returned to her room and found that she had woken up. She leaned gently on the edge of the bed, looked at herself blankly, and asked blankly, is he dead? Zhang Zizai replied, yes, you are so powerful that you sent him to heaven on the spot. Her head was shaking and she said, I'm sorry, I couldn't control myself at the time, and I hurt you. Forget it, there's no need to blame yourself. It's happened. There's no point in blaming anyone. He walked up and sat on the edge of her bed, leaning side by side with her. Don't sit here. Her voice was weak, fearing that no man had ever sat on her bed. I've been sitting here all night, and you're still here. You just fell asleep and you called me daddy dozens of times. Haha. Zhang Zizai is not afraid of boiling water, and he can still laugh at this time. As she spoke, she actually blushed. I'm telling you, you have to listen to me in everything from now on. Zhang Zizai was very serious and explained some details clearly, mainly to let her think that this incident didn't happen and that he would dispose of the body. Well, let her pretend that nothing happened. Remember, as long as you show your flaws, both of us will be finished. I know you are not afraid of death, but you don't want to implicate me, right? I haven't given birth to the Zhang family yet. I can't die now. Zhang Zizai wrote. I know, but why did I become like that? You know what, it hasn't happened before. She shook her head. Don't be burdened. Just treat it as a special talent. This prince teases you like this and deserves to die. Don't blame yourself. Zhang Zizai said. I just killed him like this. It's not good for me to do this. She was still struggling with this matter. It was his own fault. It's no one else's fault. After coaxing her for a long time, she finally figured it out. She searched around for a long time and found a crumpled map. Then, she gently tore it off, and after tearing it into pieces, she walked to the yard, dug a small hole with her fingers, and buried the pieces in it. You can actually live your own life without having to think about your parents all the time. Their spirits in heaven will definitely not want to see you like this. You are making them uncomfortable. Only if you live a happy and wonderful life can you be truly worthy of you. Parents, do you understand? Zhang Zizai said. She stood up gently, suddenly smiled slightly, and said, I understand, thank you. Smile more, you're a pretty girl. Zhang Zizai praised her. Yes, she nodded. It was not yet dawn, so she asked, do you want breakfast? I will make breakfast too. Aren't you afraid that there is still Li Rengxiang in it? My soul-suppressing talisman has been used up. If there is still Li Rengxiang, you have to give birth to a baby for me, Zhang Zizai said with a smile. I don't want it. She pursed her lips and shook her head slightly. She did not sit down for breakfast, but sat on the stone stool under the pavilion and looked at Zhang Zizai. I know why my sister likes you. You are a really good person, powerful and kind, she said softly. Don't brag about me. I'll be proud. But don't talk about Shen Xiao. All she thinks about all day long is to press me to the ground and rub me. I can't afford to offend her. While chatting, it was dawn. You're pretty good at talking. Don't be boring anymore, Zhang Zizai said. He found that after last night's changes, she seemed to have changed a little. Lingxian, live for yourself from now on. If you don't have a goal, then put your goal on cultivation and make yourself stronger. At dawn, Zhang Zizai was about to leave. He stood at the door and said to the girl, "But what happens when you become stronger? Do you feel happy when you defeat others?" She didn't understand. Zhang Zizai smiled and said, "This is indeed very happy for me, but it is different for you. But I heard that at the end of martial arts, people will become gods and follow the ancient gods. After becoming gods, it's not difficult to bring mortals back to life. If you can reach the end of martial arts, you can bring your parents back to this world." Zhang Zizai also said that he was just talking nonsense. But he didn't expect that it was this passage that made Lingxuan's life colorful. That was not the extravagant hope of despair given to her by the prince, but the meaning of life that she was looking for and finally found. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 203. At dawn, Zhang Zizai left Yanlong ruins and walked far north. In the forest that almost reached the glacier lake, he burned the prince's body and everything on him with fire. With Xiang Liash's experience, he was naturally extra careful this time. Even though he still had a lot of spiritual stones and treasures on his body, Zhang Zizai turned a blind eye. After burning the prince to ashes and completely annihilating him in this world, Zhang Zizai stood there. "You will not live for your own sins. When you assassinated me, I almost died. Today, you cannot even leave your body behind. You deserve it." Writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. This was a life-threatening revenge, and Zhang Zizai had avenged it today. Although Lingxian was the last one to kill him, he wouldn't have died without me. By the way, how could Lingxian undergo such an astonishing change? Is this the power of her totem? This physical change and increase in lethality are simply stronger than the panda's god-demon transformation. He didn't expect that this little princess Lingxian would actually have this side. Now that he thinks about it, he feels sad. Even Prime Minister Liash's death caused such a big disturbance. The prince suddenly disappeared. The next disturbance will definitely be 10 times greater. I have to find Sister Juxian to make it clear. He didn't have many people he trusted. After destroying the prince's body and removing all traces of it, he quickly returned to the sacrificial temple. After staying up all night, Juxian must be waiting for him to explain. Pushing open the door, she was standing in her room. She was a little angry and said, "You don't want your life. You stayed outside for so long just for the sake of beauty. Are you not afraid that people from the Prime Minister's mansion will kill you?" Her eyes were slightly red. She must have been worried about herself all night. Zhang Zizai was naturally relieved and said softly, "You are my beauty. If I risk my life, I can only do it for you. I didn't come back last night. I couldn't help myself. I seem to have gotten into trouble again." Seeing Zhang Zizai's serious expression, she asked, "What trouble are you causing? You just don't make people worry." Zhang Zizai told her what happened last night. After listening, she looked at Zhang Zizai blankly, her voice trembling. "You and Princess Lingxian killed the prince. Are you sure?" Zhang Zizai said, "Where can I be sure? I took the body near the glacier lake and burned it to ashes. Not a single hair was left. I'm convinced." 9 Immortals' beautiful eyes trembled slightly. She covered her head, trying to calm down, and then said, "If anyone sees it, you will definitely be dead next. If no one sees it, you have been missing for a long time. It will also cause an uproar. You will definitely be in danger by then. No matter what, the most important thing for you now is not to leave the sacrifice temple. You can't go anywhere without my permission. I know Zhang Zizai saw the concern and nervousness in her eyes. She was currently thinking of ways to survive for herself. Damn, you guys are really amazing. Now that she had realized what she was doing, she couldn't help but glare at Zhang Zizai and curse. He also killed me once, and we don't owe each other anything, Zhang Zizai said. He thought of Zhang Junjian and said, he still wants to fight for his beloved with my brother. Now that his life has been lost, I don't see how he can marry the prince. Concubine. In any case, although he and Princess Lingxian were in danger, at least Dong Yangjing was freed, and this was something Zhang Zizai didn't regret at all. Let me think about it. Can I tell this matter to the divine attendant? She thought for a while, then shook her head and said, you are not allowed to tell anyone, not even your sister, Dong Yangjing. Except for me. No one else can know, okay. She took great pains because she knew that if one more person knew, it would be more dangerous. Zhang Zizai nodded. Prince Lan Jiayun is really a model of being smart. He thought he could control the fate of Princess Lingxian, but he was killed instead. It's really ridiculous and sad. A lion was killed by a well-behaved little rabbit. The 9 immortals were very emotional when talking about this matter. He was able to defeat Concubine Su because Concubine Su was confused and overly concerned. His impatient ways can only show that his inner fear of Shen Xiao is too heavy. Next, Zhang Zizai practiced with peace of mind, as if nothing happened that night. The strange thing is that after 3 or 4 days, there is no movement at all, as if nothing happened. Could it be that he hasn't shown up for 3 or 4 days and hasn't gone to court yet no one suspects him? Zhang Zizai was confused. This is the prince. Even when Xiang Liasha didn't show up the next day, people were paying attention. When Zhang Zizai was confused, another princess came to the temple to find him. This time it was Princess Lingxian. Every time a princess arrived, the priests could only look at Zhang Zizai with envy. The one who came before was Princess Shen Xiao, who immediately closed the door when she saw Zhang Zizai. I don't know what sexy things were going on inside. Now it's the same after the fiancée Princess Lingxian comes. I recently discovered that Princess Lingxian is really beautiful. Nonsense, can you be as beautiful as the priest? The types are different. The priest is very feminine, but this Princess Lingxian is cute and youthful, which is a different flavor. You should stop talking about the priest. If you talk like this, you will be beaten to death. Princess Lingxian and Zhang Zizai were locked up together, a man and a woman alone. They were used to it. They didn't know that Princess Lingxian came in a hurry, and the first sentence she said almost made Zhang Zizai fall off the chair. Her expression was extremely anxious, surprised, and frightened. After she came over, she couldn't help but grab Zhang Zizai's collar, looking at him anxiously, and said, I saw a ghost, I saw him. The prince. Zhang Zizai was startled, then laughed dumbly, and said, don't joke with me, you are dreaming again. Unexpectedly, she was still afraid and anxious, trembling, and said, I really saw him. I haven't left Lingyanzai for a few days. It's a bit strange today. I think there is no news. I came out to see, and I saw him coming out of the Golden Palace and going to the Holy Dragon Palace. Zhang Zizai was stunned and said, are you talking about the prince? You saw the prince coming out of the Golden Palace? You saw the wrong person. He didn't believe that such a big person, who was burned to ashes by his own hands, could still jump out. In the end, she was still very panicked and said, believe me, he even said hello to me, it was definitely him, I couldn't have been wrong. And, aren't you surprised that there was no news after he died, because he wasn't dead at all? Impossible. I took him out and burned him to ashes, Zhang Zizai said in a deep voice. I don't believe it either, but I saw it. Is he a ghost? Wow. She was really scared, and she grabbed the corner of Zhang Zizai's clothes with both hands, and suddenly, Tears flowed down. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 204. Ghost. Zhang Zizai was also afraid of this thing, but the dead could not be resurrected. If he was really a ghost, how could he walk around in broad daylight? He still didn't believe it. Maybe she was too scared after killing someone and had hallucinations. Seeing her panic now, it was indeed possible. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow Method Ji Wu. Zhang Zizai thought for a while and said, "Don't worry, you said he went to the Holy Dragon Palace, right? Let's go, take me to see him." She was still a little scared, but with Zhang Zizai's support, she finally nodded. Zhang Zizai cleaned up and saw that she was still in tears, so he wiped her tears and said, "Don't cry, so that people will see you and think I bullied you." Yeah, she didn't let anyone touch her before, but now she is better, at least she didn't refuse Zhang Zizai. After tidying up for her, the two of them left the sacrifice temple under the envious eyes of the disciples. Juxian was not there, so Zhang Zizai left her a note and went out. The two walked directly from the beginning of the Holy Dragon Avenue to the end. Zhang Zizai looked up and saw the magnificent Holy Dragon Palace. Looking at the building, it was indeed more magnificent than the sacrifice temple, and more like a supreme school. It's Zhang Zizai and Princess Lingxian. They seem to have a good relationship. It seems that Princess Shenxiao is really interfering. I thought that Zhang Zizai liked Princess Shenxiao, but now it seems that he and Princess Lingxian are quite a match. In Yanlongxiu, anyone who meets someone will definitely talk about it. Some time ago, Princess Lingxian stayed with Zhang Zizai every day, and it had already spread throughout Yanlongxiu. Zhang Zizai was about to enter the Holy Dragon Palace, when suddenly, there was a huge movement in front of the Holy Dragon Palace, and a group of people walked out of it. The leader, wearing a light golden dragon robe, was smiling and chatting with the Lord of the Holy Dragon Palace, Prince Yang. When Zhang Zizai saw him for the first time, he couldn't believe his eyes. The man whose heart was crushed by Lingxian and burned to ashes by him, actually rode a tall golden dragon horse and appeared in front of Zhang Zizai unscathed. This person was the Prince Longyun. The dead man actually came back to life. Appeared here. He was burned to ashes by Zhang Zizai. Zhang Zizai never thought that this incredible scene would happen in the real world. He was stunned for a while, wiping his eyes several times, but he could only see that this Prince Longyun was no different from the previous one. Ghost. Princess Lingxian quickly hid behind Zhang Zizai, probably because she was scared. Zhang Zizai was suffocating himself, not to mention her. A person who was burned to ashes by him can reappear. What else can he be but a ghost? His mind was blank. Coincidentally, at this time, the Crown Prince Longyun saw them. He and Prince Yang rode their horses to the two of them. The Crown Prince stared at Princess Lingxian and said, "Lingxian, you are about to get married, why do you always show up outside? You have to learn more from Xiaojing, do you understand?" I know, Princess Lingxian shivered. The Crown Prince smiled at Zhang Zizai again and said, "You should treat Lingxian well in the future, just like I will treat Xiaojing well." Haha. He was still as mean as before. "Uncle, if Xiaojing gave birth to a baby for me and let my father become a grandfather, he would be very happy, right?" The Crown Prince laughed. Prince Yang nodded, "Of course. I also want to hold a grandson, but unfortunately my sons are still young." They talked and laughed, passed Zhang Zizai, and looked at the direction they should be returning to the imperial city. Zhang Zizai and Princess Lingxian didn't react until they left. "The sun is so bright, how can a ghost be so arrogant?" Princess Lingxian said worriedly. Zhang Zizai racked his brains, but couldn't figure out what was going on. The prince really came back to life. He shook his head and said, "I want to go back and think about it." You should go back too and don't run around outside. No, I won't go back. She was a little nervous, shook her head quickly, and looked at Zhang Zizai pitifully. Why don't you go back? I'm afraid of ghosts. He will definitely come to me at night. I can't go back. I didn't expect that she was not afraid of death, but was afraid of ghosts. Then what are you going to do? Find an inn, Zhang Zizai asked. No, inn, he will come to the door. She panicked, looked at Zhang Zizai with tears in her eyes, and said, Can I go to your place? Oh, you haven't married yet, and you want to sleep with me? I won't be polite to beautiful women. Zhang Zizai smiled. No, I'll just find a place for me to stay. I won't disturb you, she begged. After all, the sacrifice temple is a place where the ancient gods shelter. She thought it should be able to dispel ghosts. Seeing her so pitiful, Zhang Zizai naturally agreed. He said, Okay, I won't tease you. I'll give you the room. I have my own place to go. He brought Lingxian back to the sacrifice temple. Just as he came in, Juxian had read the note and was waiting for him here. Zhang Zizai closed the door and saw her puzzled eyes. He waved his hands and said, I really saw a ghost. Do you believe it? A person who was burned to ashes by me. I really saw him swaggering and deliberately provoked me a few words. Did you really see it? Juxian was extremely surprised. Zhang Zizai nodded. Before you killed someone, did you see clearly whether it was the prince? Lingxian nodded. She knew that this priest seemed to be Zhang Zizai. She didn't expect that they had such a good relationship. Zhang Zizai told her everything. This chapter is not finished yet. Please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. It must be him, it's absolutely correct, Zhang Zizai said. Could it be that the prince is a twin? Juxian asked. How is that possible? Zhang Zizai couldn't laugh or cry, and said, You must not be thinking of some bloody plot. Isn't this strange? She was also completely confused. They couldn't figure this out anyway. But it seems like nothing happened. In this case, the two weddings on the God's Day will still be held as scheduled. Originally, if the prince died suddenly, Zhang Zizai and Lingxuan's marriage would definitely not be successful. In the past 2 days, I have gone to check on the prince to see if there is anything fishy about him, and then I will decide whether to ask the old witch. Juxian ended in this way. Her eyes glanced at Princess Lingxian, and she suddenly smiled and said, Princess, it's getting late, you should go. Princess Lingxian was stunned and looked at Zhang Zizai. Zhang Zizai said awkwardly, She is afraid that the prince's ghost will find her. I promised her to let her live with me next time. Juxian was smiling, and her smile often made Zhang Zizai's hair stand on end. Sure enough, she suddenly said aggrievedly, She is here, where can I live? Zhang Zizai said quickly, It's okay, we can go there in the evening. Princess Lingxian was a little confused, but she suddenly came to her senses. She asked Zhang Zizai softly, Is the sweetheart you are talking about the priest? Before Zhang Zizai could speak, Juxian said shyly, Yes, Zizi and I have a good relationship. We have to make out every night. There is a lot of noise. I wonder if it will affect the princess's cultivation. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 205. Make out every night? Taiwan Novel Network. Rightward arrow. Zhang Zizai wanted to, but not even once. He knew that she was going to assert her sovereignty. Her words were so irritating that Princess Lingxian was so thin-skinned that she quickly said, It won't affect you, it won't affect you. I'll just stay somewhere casually. Juxian continued to smile. She suddenly took the princess's hand and stroked it gently. Her smile was full of charm. She said, Princess Lingxian is so beautiful. In less than a month, she will marry her. Now that you are at ease, you will already be his wife by name. Should you live your own life according to your agreement? She affirmed, yes, priest, don't worry, we will never have anything to do with each other. She now knows Zhang Zizai's true intentions, and is afraid that she will affect their relationship. She didn't expect that Zhu Xian shook her head regretfully. She was still holding Princess Lingxuan's finger. She said, actually, there is no need to be like this. Zi is amazing. I can't satisfy him by myself. If the princess is willing, we can let him hug him on both sides. He is so young and energetic, and neither of us may be able to withstand him. She looked at Princess Lingxuan's delicate body and said softly, I know that the princess must be inexperienced and does not understand the beauty of it. As a sister, I can teach you. I guarantee that I will train you into a perfect body in less than 3 days. The time it takes to serve a man makes our family feel at ease and we can't stop. These 2 sentences frightened Princess Lingxian. She trembled a few times, quickly broke away her hand, and said nervously, Master Priest, please don't misunderstand me. I have nothing to do with him. I. She was really nervous. How could there be someone like Juxian who spoke so directly? Others want to dominate their men, but she is good at it. She also wants to share, guide her, and practice her skills. It doesn't matter now, it will happen in the future, or tonight. You watch first, and we will show you how intimate we are. You will learn it very quickly. Zhu Xian smiled sweetly. I'm leaving first. Princess Lingxuan's face turned pale. She felt as if she had entered a den of thieves. She even looked at Zhang Zizai with extremely nervous eyes. Don't, the priest is joking with you, you can stay here, it'll be fine. Zhang Zizai was a bit nervous, so frightened by the 9 immortals, Princess Lingxian looked at her in the wrong way. He quickly pulled Juxian out. What are you doing? You're still not happy, Juxian asked, glaring at him. Don't dare, haha, but you have to fulfill what you said, make out every night. You go around flirting with women, and you still want to be intimate? It's a beautiful thought. In any case, the prince is not dead now, so you should think carefully about what you will do then. Zhang Zizai has already made an agreement with Lingxian, and there will be no problem in getting married. On Dong Yangjing's side, she would definitely resist to the death. As for how, it depends on when Emperor Yanlong releases Zhang Junjian. Princess Lingxian lived here with Zhang Ziyi for a long time. Of course, Zhang Zizai is actually cultivating in sweetness with the 9 immortals. The most he can do is kiss and want to be intimate, but he doesn't know that she has only been conquered by him for a long time. To outsiders, Princess Lingxian, who was about to get married, loved Zhang Zizai like crazy. She didn't care about her reputation or influence at all, so she started living with Zhang Zizai. It is said that Emperor Yanlong was dumbfounded when he heard this. The day of worshipping the gods is getting closer, and it will soon be September. On the 5th day of September, a grand wedding will be held in the palace. The prince marries Dong Yangjing. It is said that there will be a ceremony for the canonization of the crown prince on that day, followed by Zhang Zizai marrying the princess. As soon as September arrived, eunuch Qian from the palace came to the temple of sacrifice. He saw Princess Lingxian and said, Princess, you are so chic. It is you who are getting married. I am busy working back and forth. Let me tell you something. To make arrangements, we have to go to the temple of sacrifice. What's the matter? Princess Lingxian asked. What else can you do? You have to go back and prepare. Dress up and choose the wedding dress and clothing you like. Ling Yanzai also needs to dress up. It all depends on your wishes. Without your opinion, I will not dare to make decisions easily. Yeah, eunuch Qian said earnestly. It's okay, just do whatever you want. Lingxian was relatively calm when facing other people. How can you do it casually? This old slave came here specifically to invite the princess back. 5 days is no longer enough. The princess has a lot to prepare. When the time comes, the princess will not have to do many etiquette in front of the people of the world. As for studying, I have to work harder in Lingyanzai these days. I'm not going back. She looked at Zhang Zizai as if asking for help. Since you are so busy, please send a few more people to follow Princess Lingxian day and night. She has been a little timid recently. Don't let her stay alone in Lingyanzai, Zhang Zizai said. The etiquette of the royal family is so complicated. Even if Lingxian doesn't go back today, Eunuch Qian and the others will drag her back. The prince-in-law is still thoughtful and cares about the princess. Don't worry, our terrible princess has escaped again. There is definitely a group of people working around her. He was actually depressed. Will women become timid after falling in love? I think back then, Princess Lingxian lived alone in Lingyanzai for more than 10 years. Now it's better. She has a husband and she doesn't dare to go back home. Lingxian could only nod aggrievedly and followed them. Before leaving, Eunuch Qian looked back at Zhang Zizai, smiled, and said, I have good news, I forgot to tell the prince-in-law. Please speak. Zhang Zizai's eyes narrowed. There is news from Faming Temple. They are sorting out the files. Your Majesty has also reviewed them. After the final procedures are completed, Zhang Junjian will be able to come out. If everything goes well, Zhang Junjian should come out early in the morning on the wedding day, so as not to delay the wedding of Prince Consort. This chapter is not yet finished, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Really? That's great. Please help me thank Your Majesty, Zhang Zizai said. Your Majesty, you don't have to be polite. Besides, it's because the Xuanhuan general himself did not participate in treason and suffered a lot in Taiyi prison. However, Your Majesty has no choice. 100,000 wronged souls must be carefully checked. It's been nearly a year. He is finally coming out. Zhang Zizai knows very well how much he suffered in there. He is one of the people Zhang Zizai respects the most. If he can see the light of day again, Zhang Zizai will be very happy. In fact, he can't hold back his excitement at this moment. What he wants now is that he can come out safely. Let's deal with the future later. It's a pity that the prince is not dead. The person Zhang Junjian loves will become the princess. Even if he comes out, he will not be happy. And all this is arranged by Emperor Yanlong. After Eunuch Qian left, Zhang Zizai clenched his fists. He knew that the 5th day of September was about to come. It's been a year. On that day, there may be many destinies that need to be reversed. Brother, I hope you can get the happiness you want. Blood is thicker than water. The relationship between brothers for more than 10 years is engraved in my heart. How important is the guidance of his brother to him? He has been a waste for 15 years, but he still has his original intention. It has a lot to do with the encouragement of his brother. The princes and nobles who had the same experience as him were either completely useless and lost confidence in themselves, or indulged in alcohol and sex, and became ruthless. Only Zhang Zizai grew up with his heart, without rushing or being impatient. Over the years, every word of guidance from his brother was as heavy as a mountain. They had the same blood. Zhang Zizai wanted to repay him. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 206. Unexpectedly, in the early autumn of September, Zhang Zizai could still gain something. His realm increased directly. On the night when Eunuch Qian took Princess Lingxian away, he successfully broke through to the 8th level of the mysterious Vein Realm with the help of Juxian's affection. From the 6 prefectures grand meeting to now, 4 or 5 months have passed, and he has basically broken through 1 level every month. Even if it is a wild level totem, This is quite amazing. Lu Dingxing's progress is not so fast, but he has also reached the 5th level of the mysterious vein realm. The 8th mysterious vein is the Black Water Sky Dragon mysterious vein, and his 9 Sky Dragon vein fixation technique has been completed by 8/9. In the body, there are 9 different attributes, but all of them are black mysterious veins, crisscrossing, and only one mysterious vein is missing to form a complete martial arts totem. The 8 kinds of black mysterious veins, such as wind, fire, water, earth, gold, wood, ice, and thunder, have 8 effects. His true chi at this time is so terrible that it exceeds almost all the 9th level of the mysterious vein realm. Even the god's servant said after seeing Zhang Zizai's strength, almost none of the priests in the sacrifice temple can match him now. It can be seen that the god's servant was particularly shocked by his performance. The priests were generally 4 or 5 years older than Zhang Zizai, but he suppressed them all. However, Zhang Zizai was still low-key and did not let too many people know that he had reached this level now. For martial arts, his confidence is endless. In 1 year, he started from scratch and now has reached the 8th level of the Xuanhuan realm. This is a super genius unprecedented in history. Of course, Xuanhuan must take the credit for himself. She said, "If I hadn't watered you every night, you wouldn't have grown so big." This adjective was enough to make Zhang Zizai imagine. "I have the dragon spirit sword and hundreds of soul-calming talismans. Now I think it's not a big problem for me to fight against the 1st level of the holy body realm. There is no rival below the mysterious vein realm." To be honest, he never thought he could grow to such a level. In fact, he really had to thank Xuanhuan because her totem helped Zhang Zizai speed up fiercely. Without her, Zhang Zizai estimated that he would be at most around the 5th level of the mysterious vein realm. To the outside world, he might still think that his strength remained at the time of the 6 Prefectures Festival, because he hadn't made a move for a long time. The last time he made a move was said to be at the Longshan hunting, where Princess Shenxiao defeated him. The news at that time had already spread. Now within the imperial dynasty, people believe that the number 1 genius at that age is still the former Princess Shenxiao. She relied on her efforts to step on Zhang Zizai again and avenge the 6 Prefectures Festival. I heard that Princess Shenxiao realized her mistake and has focused on cultivation, making rapid progress. Someone seems to say that within 3 years, she will be able to surpass the prince in martial arts at a young age of 5 years. Her talent in cultivation is really terrible. Zhang Zizai, who is in the temple of the god, will probably find it difficult to catch up with her. During the hunting at Longshan, he was easily defeated. These days, he has been in love with Princess Lingxian all day long. He probably has no time to cultivate. It seems that love is really a hindrance. Princess Shenxiao broke off the relationship with him and became much more mature. In fact, a super strong man still has the hope of inheriting the throne. After all, Your Majesty is also a super strong man. Some of the previous emperors had poorer cultivation and could not suppress the surrounding villains. Even the source beasts were ready to move. Zhang Zizai did not expect that Shenxiao, who was devoted to cultivation, would regain his reputation. Sure enough, it is better to keep a low profile. He now took Zhang Yuning, Ruo Xiaoyu, Bai Shenjin, Lu Dingxing, and others to a place called Zhangwangfu in Yanlongxiu. Zhangwangfu was once an empty mansion in Yanlongxiu. It was once used by a prince. Later, the prince moved out of Yanlongxiu. In the past few months, Yanlong Emperor had people reorganize it and gave it to the Kailan royal family. In fact, it was given to Zhang Zizai. This Zhangwangfu will be Zhang Zizai's mansion in the future. Xuanhuan also came with her. When she saw the Zhangwangfu, which covers an area of 100 acres and has a courtyard, a pool, a garden, a rockery, and many halls and palaces, she sighed. The emperor married his daughter, which is amazing. The dowry is a large villa of tens of thousands of square meters within the second ring road. I can't compare at all. The reason why I came here today is naturally because the Kailan royal family has arrived. Princess Ruohua has already moved into the Zhongwangfu today. Finally seeing their mother, Zhang Yuning, and Ruo Xiaoyu had to be affectionate for a while before it was Zhang Zizai's turn to speak. Bai Shenjin and the others went to play nearby, surrounded by relatives. Zhang Zizai not only told about killing Xiang Liushu, but also about killing the prince. Ruhua already knew about Xiang Liushu, but she didn't know about the death of the prince. Only Juxian knew about it. After hearing it, Ruhua couldn't calm down. Burned to ashes, but still alive, there must be something wrong. I will go to the morning court tomorrow, and then I will meet the prince. No one can figure out the problem, and she can't figure it out either. Then she looked at Zhang Yuning with pity. This time, he decided to take Zhang Yuning back and never come back to Yanlongxiu. After all, who knows when the Prime Minister's mansion will kill, she can only feel at ease if she protects herself. As for the day when Zhang Junjian escapes, she already knows. Not long after, Dong Yangjing also came here. She should be very busy at this time. Xiaojing seeing her, Princess Ruohua hugged her quickly and said softly, "Thank you for your hard work these days." In fact, she could have fled to the ends of the earth long ago, but she was afraid that if she did not show up that day, the emperor might not let Zhang Junjian go. "Aunt Ruo, I want to talk about what we should do on the God's Day," Dong Yangjing asked softly. So far, 9 chapters have been published, and there are 5 chapters left. The Madman will continue to update. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 207. Ruohua asked everyone to sit down, and then said, from what the emperor said, he wants Jun Jian to attend the wedding. The wedding is at noon, so Jun Jian will definitely be able to come out in the morning. I want to send someone to wait for him, and let him leave directly after he comes out, and don't go to the imperial city. What about me? Dong Yangjing asked. Ruohua gently stroked her long hair and said, during the day, we can only follow the ceremony. After all, it is complicated to appoint the crown princess. At night, the crown prince has many banquets to deal with. I have arranged some people to pick you up during such a long time. Let Jun Jian wait for you outside Yanlongxiu. Ruohua gently hugged Dong Yangjing and said, girl, I know you don't want to marry the crown prince, but if Jun Jian appears in public, and you follow your own way and escape the marriage in such an occasion, it will only make the royal family lose face. At that time, it will only be more difficult. We can only use euphemism. Zhang Zizai said, what you think makes sense. It is indeed not okay to embarrass the crown prince in public. But we have to hold on until my brother is released. So we can only choose to escape separately, but the key is that my brother may leave easily. Sister Dongyang will definitely be on guard. It is not so easy to take people away. This is also a problem I am worried about, but there is no other way. Ruohua shook her head. Dong Yangjing smiled and said, this is already very good. As long as Jun Jian can live safely, I will definitely have a chance to leave. If it really doesn't work, I can only say sorry to him and I'll leave first. Xiaojing, don't be like this. Your life is your own. He won't be willing to let you do this. Ruohua knew what she meant, so she felt particularly distressed. Don't worry, Aunt Ruo, if fate no longer belongs to me, I will also resist. At worst, it will be a fight to the death. If he dares to touch me, I have prepared a Si Mingfu. If he gets close to me and is not prepared, I can kill him in an instant. Dong Yangjing said resolutely. Don't be too impulsive. If he really dies, it will be more troublesome. Ruohua frowned. But Dong Yangjing is so strong. She believes in love, she follows love, and she will not bow her head for everything. I also want to call you mother. Listen to me. I know there will be many variables on that day. I will follow your arrangement. However, If something goes wrong and I cannot become her wife, I would rather end my life, she said with red eyes and a smile on her face. Xiaojing. Ruohua hugged her tightly. Zhang Zizai did not speak, but when that day comes, he will also give everything. If there is a way to fulfill them, he will never hesitate. Such a daughter-in-law, such a mother-in-law, how can there be a mother-in-law and daughter-in-law conflict? Juxian hugged his arms and sighed. Juxian priest Ruohua noticed her. Speaking of daughter-in-law, she is also Ruohua's target daughter-in-law. But, for some reason, when she and Ruohua looked at each other, the feeling of mother-in-law and daughter-in-law conflict instantly arose. What for? Juxian said. Please take me to see the star god servant, she said. Okay, Juxian nodded. Ruo Xiaoyu and Zhang Yuning looked at each other. They are both the ones her son likes, why does the mother have a completely different attitude? Dong Yangjing can't stay here for too long. If she disappears for too long, King Qingluan will definitely look for her everywhere, so she left soon. Zhang Ziyi and the others took Ruohua and headed to the temple. On the way, Juxian and Zhang Zizai walked at the end. Your mother is biased. She doesn't like me to be her daughter-in-law, Juxian pouted. Absolutely not, don't talk nonsense, Zhang Zizai said. How can there be no, you don't know the intuition between women, she is definitely afraid that you will be completely abducted by me in the future, and you will forget your mother after marrying a wife. She also knows that I will not be like Dong Yangjing, snuggling in her arms and crying, Juxian said indignantly. Then what should I do? Zhang Zizai asked. Then I will do as she wishes and snatch her son away, making her so angry that she will blow her beard and glare, he. She stared into Zhang Zizai's eyes and said, you are mine, and your mother has no share at all. That's all right, I give in. Just after she finished speaking, Princess Ruohua in front turned around and said, Zizai, come here, I want to ask you something. Just after she finished speaking, Juxian whispered, don't go over there, if you go over there, you will practice alone in the future. Zhang Zizai was stunned, there is such a thing? It's difficult for him, one is his own mother, and the other is the beauty he is pursuing. He can only sacrifice his mother first, saying, Mom, wait a minute, I will talk to the priest first. His voice became weaker and weaker. Ruohua looked back at Juxian, and Zhang Zizai really saw the look of fighting between women. Juxian smiled with satisfaction, took Zhang Zizai's arm, and was very proud. This made Ruohua angry. After she went to the sacrifice temple to meet the star god servant alone, she was about to leave, after all, she had to go to the imperial city tomorrow. Are you really determined to be with Juxian priest? When she left, she pulled Zhang Zizai to a corner and asked. Don't think about it, I haven't chased her yet, Zhang Zizai said. If you really want to be respectful to Princess Lingxian, why did I hear that she lives with you? And that Princess Shenxiao, why did I hear that she is also ambiguous with you? What's wrong with you, flirting with everyone, when can you be as loyal as your brother, she asked. Zhang Zizai said with a smile, those are just rumors. I only have Juxian priest in my heart. You must have been charmed by her. She is so charming that you really can't control yourself. But do you really understand her? I'm telling you, I'm not a child anymore. I like her. You are not allowed to control me. I have my own judgment, Zhang Zizai said. Xiaobao Ruohua was so angry that she laughed. She shook her head helplessly and said, forget it. If your father were here, he wouldn't let me control you. You decide for yourself. Anyway, I don't like women who look too charming. The vixens in the stories all look like this. You don't have to like me. I just like it, Zhang Zizai said. You stinky boy, Ruohua smiled helplessly. Her youngest son has grown up and is different. Now she can't even control the life and death of her eldest son, let alone control the love of her youngest son. 5 days will pass quickly. On that day, the ending of Dong Yangjing and Zhang Junjian will be known immediately. As a mother, what she disliked most was that Dong Yangjing burned her life in pursuit of the love she longed for. She really felt sorry for this girl, so everything she did today was to fight to the end. In the blink of an eye, the day of offering sacrifices to the gods was like an ancient beast, opening its huge mouth and rushing towards it. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 208. On the day before the god-worshipping day, Zhang Ziyi was in the King Jiang's mansion, and the eunuch Qian rehearsed all the etiquette details of tomorrow's grand ceremony for him. Of course, Zhang Ziyi's mind was not on this etiquette, he only cared about when Zhang Junjian would come out. He also cared about what his brother and Dong Yangjing would face tomorrow. On the eve of the god-worshipping day, Yan Longxiu stayed up all night. The annual god-worshipping day is the most grand festival of the Yanlong dynasty. This year, there is a princess getting married and the crown prince appointing a crown princess, so it is even more grand. At night, Yan Longxiu was full of festive lanterns and ribbons, and paper cuts were pasted everywhere. The whole city was shrouded in a sea of red. There was also a lantern festival that night. The streets of Yan Longxiu were very lively, and the people were welcoming the arrival of tomorrow's grand festival. Children ran around, actors performed on the streets, and strange people from all sides performed their unique skills, attracting bursts of cheers. The people loved to watch these mysterious things. The lively atmosphere lasted until dawn. Instead of weakening, it became even more enthusiastic, because people knew that a series of grand events would be held in the imperial city soon. Yesterday morning, Emperor Yanlong said that he would grant amnesty to the whole world today. Those prisoners who had repented and behaved well in prisons across the dynasty would have the opportunity to be reborn. The grand event of the dynasty, the whole world celebrates together. Dong Yangjing was born in the Qingluan clan of the 9 major clans of the dynasty. She was the eldest daughter of the Qingluan king and had a prominent status. With the honor of being the first in the national defense banquet, she deserved the status of the crown princess. The people of the world had no objection. People just heard that Dong Yangjing had been good friends with Zhang Junjian and had disobeyed the Qingluan king at the 6 prefectures grand meeting. Obviously, she did not like the crown prince and had someone in her heart. Whether she would really surrender today was also a point of concern for the people. Comparing the prince with Zhang Junjian was really excellent in the past, but now is different. One is the future emperor, and the other is a prisoner. I believe that under the guidance of the elders, Dong Yangjing will make a choice. So-called love is really insignificant compared to the real future and the pressure of the family. No one will not want his future and life for the so-called true love. Such discussions are endless in all parts of the dynasty. Of course, they don't know that just when eunuch Qian was preparing for Zhang Zizai, in the cold Taiyi prison in the corner of the imperial city, a tall man in prison clothes and a group of other pardoned criminals walked out of the gate of Taiyi prison. After a year, he finally saw the sun. At that moment, he could only close his eyes, the sun was too dazzling. He was a little unsteady, and only he knew how much the torture of the disaster had destroyed him in this year. After a long time, he opened his eyes a little. "Hurry up, don't block the road here, you're not dead yet, why don't you get out of here?" the jailer behind them was already urging them. A group of people who hadn't seen the sun for who knows how long, walked forward in a daze. The light actually hurt their eyes. What can be heard is that there are noisy and festive sounds everywhere, especially in the direction of the dynasty, with gongs and drums and firecrackers. Looking over there, there are lights and decorations all the way, and children are running happily. Xiaojing he knew that she had gone there. Junjian there was a middle-aged man in a yellow robe standing in front. The middle-aged man lowered his head and his face was a little decadent. He saw the tall man and said, "The princess asked me to take you out of the city. Come with me and get out of the sea of suffering first." "Where is Xiaojing?" Zhang Junjian asked. "At noon, she will marry the prince first, and then the princess will find a way to bring her out. At that time, you can go as far as you want." Xuanhuan, the lord of Huanglan Mansion, said. Zhang Junjian stood for a moment. He suddenly turned around and headed towards the direction of the imperial city. "Junjian, what are you doing?" Zhang Yuan had a headache. Zhang Junjian walked faster and faster. "Junjian, you have to listen to the princess's arrangement. If you go there now, it will not be good for both of you. If you make trouble there, the princess will take Dong Yangjing out next, which will only cause more trouble." Zhang Yuan had already admitted his mistakes in the past, and Ruohua gave him a chance. This time, he was arranged to take Zhang Junjian away, and she still trusted him. However, Ruohua herself probably didn't expect that Zhang Yuan couldn't stop Zhang Junjian at all. In this lively Yanlong ruins, Zhang Junjian flashed a few times and disappeared in the crowd and disappeared in front of him. "This is bad, strange. Jun Jian used to be a calm person, why is he so uncalm today? It's no wonder, who can watch the person they like get married with someone else, and in front of the world, but they can't lose their minds. I have to tell the princess quickly." In fact, he also watched Zhang Junjian grow up. He knew his character better, he couldn't hide and wait, letting the person he wanted to protect take risks alone. He knew very well what choice she would make if she failed. He knew her too well. Flame Dragon Imperial City. The most lively place now is naturally the origin pillar of the royal family. The origin pillar exclusive to the royal family is also called Flame Dragon Pillar. That is the cradle of the totem warriors of the Flame Dragon royal family. All the Flame Dragon royal family got the dragon totem here. It is said that the probability of getting the dragon totem here is very high, so it is directly called the Flame Dragon Pillar. The Flame Dragon Pillar stands on the huge Flame Dragon altar, which is so large that it can accommodate tens of thousands of people. Today, the Flame Dragon Emperor first led the royal family to worship their ancestors in front of the princes and ministers, and then let the young men of the royal family who were of the right age obtain the totem here. There were not many young men of the royal family, so it was over in almost an hour. People knew that the grand event was about to begin. The marriage of the royal family was different from that of ordinary people. They were all married under the Flame Dragon Pillar and witnessed by the ancient gods. In the morning, Zhang Zizai and other people from the Zhang Palace had already arrived at the Flame Dragon altar. He was dressed up all night and now he was dressed in red and dressed up. There were a lot of hair accessories on his head. Today, he was indeed handsome and majestic, but he was tired of these decorations. When the event was over, he would get rid of those ghost things on his head as soon as possible. Now he has not seen Princess Lingxian or Dong Yangjing. The Crown Prince Long Yun had already appeared. Today, he was in high spirits and chatting and laughing with people from all walks of life. His outfit was naturally more domineering than Zhang Zizai's, but after all, in terms of temperament, he looked much more vulgar than Zhang Zizai. When the two were compared, there was actually a difference in superiority, which people did not expect. After the ancestor worship was over, tens of thousands of people gathered at the Yanlong altar. These were high-ranking officials and strong men invited from all over the country. For example, the patriarchs of the 9 major clans, the 3 dragon kings and their families, as well as the prime minister's mansion, the state guarding Taiwei mansion, the censor Taiwei mansion and other princes and ministers. The generals guarding the 4 directions, as long as they did not have important tasks, had already arrived. There were dozens of generals of the same level as Zhang Junjian alone. In the past few days, many big figures from all over the country have been going to Yanlongxiu to congratulate the Yanlong Emperor, and they have to send 2 gifts, one for the princess and one for the prince, which is equivalent to a tribute. It is said that the gifts have been received so much that they are soft. After all, the city lords and governors of various parties are all powerful figures in the local area, and they have a lot of treasures. It is said that the Yanlong Emperor was very happy and announced on the spot that all these gifts would be given to Zhang Zizai and the prince. It can be said that the most important figures in the entire dynasty have gathered here. These are all well-known figures. When they come here, they can have a grand social event. No one wants to be isolated, so they start talking before the wedding ceremony. At this time, the Yanlong Emperor came out again, and for a time, the whole world came to pay homage. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 209. Today, Zhang Zizai has many enemies present. For example, the Prime Minister's mansion. In such a short time, he has already felt countless murderous eyes coming from the Prime Minister's mansion. Prime Minister Xiang Liuqiu, Xiang Liujhan, and others, have no chance to catch Zhang Yuning during this time. In addition to them, there is also the general of Zhengzi Nangongke, who is a subordinate of the King of West Dragon. Zhang Zizai cut off one of his arms. With his personality, he just didn't have the chance to retaliate. Obviously, today is not their chance, so Zhang Zizai ignored them. Princess Ruohua is also an important person today. People keep coming up to congratulate her, completely forgetting the fact that they hid far away when Ruohua asked for help before. Their faces are thick enough. I heard that Zhang Junjian was also acquitted today. I really envy the princess. The two sons are both talented. Yes, the future revival of the Kailan royal family will be inherited by these two sons. The princess can rest assured. No one deliberately talked about the Zilan King's affairs in such a grand event today. Just pretend that this person doesn't exist. Your Majesty's Crown Prince and Princess Shenxiao are both gifted. Only the princess's two sons can compete with them. Ruohua smiled and said, "You are all joking. Junjian and Zizai can't be compared with the Crown Prince and Princess." Speaking of Princess Shenxiao, Zhang Zizai also saw her just now. She was definitely unwilling to participate in this occasion, but she had to come, and she had to dress up. Today she was also dressed up, like a dragon and a phoenix among people. Even if she was not the bride, she was stunning enough. Her face was cold, and the strong men from all sides knew that she was in a bad mood today. Naturally, no one went up to talk to her, asking for trouble. Watching the person you like marry your sister is not something everyone can bear. Zhang Zizai looked at her a few times and found that she had really grown a lot under such public opinion. She was still calm, much better than her previous manic look. In fact, many people came to the sacrifice temple, including the 9 Immortals, the Star God Servant and the Saint Yuanqing 9 Immortals were also present. They were all invited. Zhang Zizai looked at Juxian every 10 breaths. Juxian didn't feel that her cabbage was being snatched away. Every time they looked at each other, she smiled charmingly and cast a wink. Ruohua was right beside Zhang Zizai. The two of them kept flirting with each other. How could she not know? She could only secretly glare at Zhang Zizai. "Be careful of your influence in public, you little bastard," she muttered. At this time, Emperor Yanlong was talking to the guests from Hefang. They were all polite and polite. There was nothing nice to hear. "Mother, do you think my brother is out safely now?" Zhang Zizai asked. "He should be out. I asked the emperor yesterday and he said that everything has been handled. Faming Temple sealed the files overnight. According to the regulations, he can come out at Chinchi. Now an hour has passed," she said with concentration. "Next, it depends on whether Dong Yangjing can leave. At this time, the eunuch Qian has announced that the auspicious time is almost here and he wants to invite the two brides to make a grand appearance." The door of a magnificent hall behind the Yanlong altar opened, and ritual music sounded. It is said that today's singing and dancing team has thousands of people, and the prepared programs can start from this time and perform until late at night. In the grand ritual music, surrounded by a group of beautiful palace maids, the two brides came out. They still wore red veils, but looking at the clothes and the long skirts, you can tell how beautiful they are. Princess Lingxian is younger, so Zhang Zizai immediately knew which one is Dong Yangjing and which one is Lingxian. Of course, the one who walked out with Lingxian was the queen of the dynasty, and there was also a smiling woman on Dong Yangjing's side, who was the wife of King Qingluan. I am very pleased today, and I will personally preside over this wedding for you two beautiful women. The Yanlong Emperor was very happy. My children, come here. He stood on the Yanlong altar, ruling the world. The auspicious time was almost here, and the eunuch Qian next to him was calculating the time. Zhang Zizai left his seat and came to the side of Princess Lingxian. The queen smiled and whispered, Zhang Zizai, you are really a handsome man. No wonder Yanner is so moved. The queen is too kind, Zhang Zizai said. From now on, Yanner will be handed over to you. Over the years, I have watched Yanner grow up. She is like my own daughter. You must not bully her. Zhang Zizai said, you can rest assured that I will definitely treat the princess sincerely. These are all private whispers. Under their arrangement, Zhang Zizai followed the royal etiquette that eunuch Qian had demonstrated countless times in person, holding Princess Lingxuan's hand, facing the high and mighty Yanlong Emperor with his back to tens of thousands of people. It is quite troublesome for the royal family to get married. There are various procedures to follow. First, you have to worship in the hall, then you have to toast, and there are many other trivial etiquettes that must be followed. Zhang Zizai glanced at Dong Yangjing on the left. The crown prince wanted to hold her hand, but she didn't extend it. As a result, the crown prince didn't show any emotion, stretched out his hand and grabbed her, holding her down directly, not allowing Dong Yangjing to break free. He was in the saint body realm, after all, stronger than Dong Yangjing. Zhang Zizai glanced at him, and there was no difference between this crown prince and the dead one. Now that he was closer, he could find that this was basically the same person. However, he was burned to ashes by himself. What happened so that he could stand in front of him alive like this? This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. This was something Zhang Zizai couldn't figure out even after racking his brain. When the time came, eunuch Qian announced, the auspicious time has come. The two newlyweds are going to visit the church to get married. Powerful people from all sides, princes and ministers looked at this grand event with smiles on their faces. Zhang Zizai left as arranged, so it didn't matter. He was just paying attention to Dong Yangjing. Although he couldn't see her expression, Zhang Zizai knew that she must be very disgusted and wanted to go through this wedding ceremony with the prince. Looking at Qingluan Wang and his wife again, they might have already bent over with laughter. Zhang Zizai just accidentally glanced at the crowd behind him. Suddenly, he heard a loud noise. He took a closer look and saw a tall man in ragged clothes walking out of the crowd and walking towards the altar. This man has a slender figure, eyes as bright as stars, and long hair tied into a bunch. Although his clothes are dirty and messy, his long hair has been neatly arranged. Overall, he looked taller and more heroic than Zhang Zizai, his eyes were sharper, and he was more solemn and mature. He was definitely a rare handsome man in the world. On such an occasion, he actually walked out of the place where he was supposed to be and immediately attracted everyone's attention. Junjian, Princess Ruohua was stunned and quickly stood up. Hearing this exclamation, the girl on Zhang Zizai's left suddenly trembled, and then, without any hesitation, she pulled off the red hijab on her head. The makeup of the prosperous age is displayed in front of the world. Today, she is indeed extremely beautiful. Dignified and luxurious, She already has the capital of being a mother in the world. However, no one thought that her beauty at this moment was not blooming for the prince, but for Zhang Junjian. She finally saw the person she thought about day and night. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 210. When she saw him, Dong Yangjing's mind went blank, and the whole world disappeared. In the whole world, there was only the man who walked towards her firmly. Perhaps, his whole world also disappeared. Between heaven and earth, there was only this woman in gorgeous clothes waiting for him today. The etiquette of any place in the world does not allow the bride to take off the red veil at this time, and in front of Emperor Yanlong. This is definitely a joke that shocked the entire dynasty, and it was all the face of Emperor Yanlong, and even made the neighboring small countries laugh. But these are just the beginning. People didn't expect that at this time, Dong Yangjing was like crazy, shaking off the prince's hand, and then running towards him at the pace of a girl. Maybe this was a moth to a flame, but the love in her heart could not be tainted, and she was willing to fight for everything. Xiaojing Zhang Junjian completely ignored the eyes of tens of thousands of big figures. He was faster. In the blink of an eye, the two people who could not be stopped actually hugged each other in public. When they hugged tightly, and when Dong Yangjing's tears fell and wet her makeup, tens of thousands of bigwigs at the scene looked stiff and dull as they watched all this. The Yanlong altar was silent, only the singing and dancing continued. They didn't know that such a thing had happened here. It was really unbelievable that tens of thousands of people just watched them being affectionate. Their eyes and movements and the lingering at this moment completely explained everything. Dong Yangjing was forced, she had the person she loved most in her heart, and she was really willing to do everything, even if it was stupid, to get together. Dong Yangjing. The first person to react was the Qingluan king. His face turned pale instantly. He knew very well that what happened today would make the Yanlong emperor lose face. This was the laughing stock of the entire dynasty, the laughing stock of the prince, and the laughing stock of the emperor. As Dong Yangjing's father, he would become a sinner for all ages. His whole heart was trembling now, and he was basically sluggish. In this situation, he reacted instinctively. He wanted to beat Zhang Junjian to death and bring his daughter back. He glanced at the prince and found that the prince's eyes were completely red, and the violent murderous intent was so obvious. Only the Flame Dragon Emperor was used to the world, and now it seemed that there was no movement. To be honest, even Zhang Zizai himself did not expect that they would be like this. It was touching, but how to end it next? The Qingluan king had already taken action and rushed towards the younger generation, but he did not expect that it was Princess Ruohua who stood in front of him. Everyone in the world knew her determination to protect her son. Princess Ruohua, don't stop me, the Qingluan king trembled all over, and he knew that there was no room for redemption. People are watching, and the face is already lost. Ruohua ignored him. She looked back at Zhang Junjian and said with a wry smile, "Why bother?" She had already made arrangements, but who knew that he would come here directly and walk up to her without saying anything? I thought Zhang Junjian was obedient, but he met someone he liked and was out of control. Mom. Zhang Junjian gently pulled Dong Yangjing, and the two of them came out of their world. In such an occasion, he was very calm. At this time, Dong Yangjing was held by him and stood beside him like a little woman, like a little bird. Although her face was full of tears, the look in her eyes when she looked at her lover was happy. Zhang Junjian suddenly brought Dong Yangjing and said respectfully to Emperor Yanlong, "Your Majesty, the prince's marriage was decided by him and King Qingluan, not Xiaojing. Perhaps your Majesty does not know how King Qingluan forced Xiaojing to win over the prince. Such a parent is really despised by the world. Perhaps everyone does not know that Xiaojing and I have been married for a long time. If I had not been wrongly imprisoned, we would have been married today. Now I am lucky to be innocent and have to come out and tell the truth." I hope your majesty can forgive us. Xiaojing is already mine. She is not worthy of being called the crown princess. She has come to this point because she was forced. I hope your majesty can see clearly. This paragraph of words is even more trembling. This Zhang Junjian is really bold. After all, who doesn't want to lose face? In such a matter, the royal family and King Qingluan will be embarrassed in the end. The key is that he even told the truth about the husband and wife. Now the prince will definitely not marry Dong Yangjing. Everyone in the world knows that she is Zhang Junjian's woman. Can she become the crown princess? Dong Yangjing didn't say anything, but the way she leaned against Zhang Junjian and burst into tears said it all. These are tears of happiness. With such a man, who is upright and speaks to the Flame Dragon Emperor with such an attitude, she is worth it even if she dies. She also said, Your Majesty, I have long told the Crown Prince and my parents that I only have Zhang Junjian in my heart, but they forced me to this point. Xiaojing is not destined to be the Crown Princess. I hope your Majesty can help us. People say that your Majesty is a wise monarch. Your Majesty is just unaware of this matter. Junjian stood up today just because he is deeply in love with me. I hope your Majesty will not punish me. I can't be a royal family with my cheap life. Nothing in the world can be more touching than them holding hands at this moment and facing everything in such an occasion. Their tacit understanding was so amazing that they had not discussed anything at all, but now they directly pointed the finger at the Crown Prince and King Qingluan. It's not that Dong Yangjing doesn't love her parents, she has made countless compromises, but when they only do it for the family and don't care about her daughter's happiness, she has long been disappointed. This chapter is not finished yet. Please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. This huge flame dragon altar is still silent. Before getting married, the original crown princess actually escaped from the marriage on such an occasion and followed Zhang Junjian on the spot. This explosive news may have caused a sensation in Yanlongsu in less than an hour. Everyone was waiting for Yan Dragon Emperor's reaction. Everyone could see how happy he was today, but something suddenly happened that made him so embarrassing. How would he deal with it? He is the emperor, but he is not everything. People's words are to be feared, but they also work for him. Under people's gaze, Emperor Yanlong was still able to smile. He seemed to regard this as a trivial matter. At this time, he looked at the Crown Prince and King Qingluan and said, You two are really messing around. It's a big matter of marriage, even though it's a big deal. My parents make the decision, but Xiaojing's own opinions also need to be listened to. How could I just do something random? If not, how could it have caused such a joke? Now, the whole world will laugh at me. How can I lose my face? Hearing this, the prince and King Qingluan hurriedly knelt on the ground. King Qingluan trembled and said, Your Majesty, it's my fault. I didn't educate my daughter well. I will take this beast back and discipline it well for the rest of my life. Don't let her come out and embarrass herself. When he was excited, he was really desperate. If he called his daughter an animal, wouldn't that mean he was an animal? When people heard this, they could only hold back their laughter. The prince lowered his head and said nothing, but people could clearly see that his face was already flushed. He said, Father, I don't know either. It was King Qingluan who insisted on making the matchmaking. I really thought Xiaojing liked me and was willing to marry me. If I had known that she couldn't help herself, I would never force others.